Vaguely, out of the depths of my conscious, I think I can hear the shower water flowing from the bathroom, but I'm too tired to care. Instead, I just roll over and burrow further into the pillow, still hugging it tightly to my chest. It's not until the bed groans with additional weight that I open my eyes to see Hieronymous slipping into bed beside me. Hieronymous! The pillow is immediately thrown aside as I wrap my arms around him instead. Are you okay? I am, he confirms as he wipes the hair back off my forehead. And you? I shake my head. I'm okay. I feel a bit sick, though. He nods in understanding. Traveling through the spirit gate will do that, especially for someone as inexperienced as yourself. We sit in silence for a moment, neither of us knowing quite what to say. I want to ask him what happened after I left, but I'm not sure how comfortable Hieronymous feels opening up to me, and I don't want to push him too hard. Finally, it's Hieronymous who stirs me from my thoughts with a light chuckle. I think my father likes you. He sounds amused, and his face takes on that younger, boyish quality that I love about him so much. Still, it wasn't the reaction that I was expecting. Is that a good thing? I ask hesitantly. To his credit, Hieronymous pauses for a moment before responding. It is and it isn't, he finally decides. It does make things more complicated. My father laid out his intentions for me and what he wants, complete with a corresponding timeline, but I'm not sure if I even want any of it. If I do, it's definitely not on the timeline he's decided to mandate. I hesitate for a moment as thoughts of Hieronymous heading back to England while I complete my schooling here come to mind. So, where does that leave us then? Hieronymous turns back to me as if seeing me for the first time as he tucks a stray strand of hair behind my ear. You were brave today, he says softly. I can't imagine what you must have thought being dragged into the other world, especially with everything that I've told you about it. But I'm glad you left when I asked you to. I can't put into words, Tori, how thankful I am that you listened to me and got yourself out of there when I knew how much you didn't want to leave my side. Kindness and courage, I say with a tight smile, and Hieronymous nods as he takes one of my hands in his large one. I heard you cry out to me, but I couldn't get to the portal in time, he continues. I should have followed after you immediately, but I teleported back to the school to get Professor Potsdam. Since you are a student, she has a trace on your location in the other world and can teleport directly to you at all times. When she left, I retrieved the portal key to Ravine Cottage. I couldn't think of anywhere else he would take you. I nod quietly. We had probably been separated for no more than 20 minutes, but it still felt like hours. Potsdam explained that Ravine Cottage is well warded and that I wasn't in any real danger. I don't care, Hieronymous exclaims suddenly as he gets up. I jump at his sudden outburst, but I decide to say nothing. He's mad, but at least this time I know that it's not at me. I might have been worried about him taking his rage out on me if this had been a year ago, but not now. As he paces the room, bits of Professor Grabiner begin to slip through the cracks in his expression. Just the thought of him dragging you into that place makes me sick, Tori. It really does. If he had brought you anywhere else and I hadn't been able to get you in time. Hieronymous, I say suddenly, trying to get his attention before he passed the point of no return. I need to ask you something important. Your father said that he did research on me. He said that my mother made the choice, but she decided not to study magic because she didn't want to leave her family behind. Is that true? Hieronymous stops pacing and looks pensive as he considers this. I don't know, he finally admits, although he still doesn't sit down. It's possible. They do have that information on record somewhere, and my father would know the right people to access it. Oh. I try to figure out how to feel about this, but still can't decide. If it did happen, it was in the past, and it didn't matter. It wouldn't change my relationship with her. She no longer remembered that she had a daughter. I could remember that I had a mother, but that was all she was now. A memory. One that was still painful to dwell on, if that. My father is a great many things, but he's not known to be a liar, Hieronymous adds. And it would make sense. Starting out, you portrayed a much firmer grasp on magic than other wild seeds in your class. You also have an affinity for blue magic, which is rare for a wild seed. He sees the look on my face. I wouldn't dwell on it. You can ask her, and even if you could, she wouldn't remember. My father might be a purist, but even being born into a magical family doesn't guarantee success, Tori. Your abilities are a direct result of how much you apply yourself and how much you focus on developing your own skills. I've seen you in my classes, Tori. I know how hard you work. I can't help but let a small smile tug at the corner of my lip. I know. It's not whether she did or not that really bothers me, I guess. She just always seemed unhappy with her life. Maybe she knew something was wrong but couldn't remember what, so she didn't know how to express it. Maybe she's stuck spending the rest of her life suffering regret for a decision that she can't remember she even made. It's possible, Hieronymous says gently as he comes to sit beside me again. But good things never come out of focusing on the past, Tori. You taught me that. We need to focus on the future. Together. Speaking of the future, your father asked when we plan on having kids? I say, unable to suppress a smirk. Not a chance, Hieronymous says sternly as he shakes his head. Not until you're at least 25. 25? That's what I'm saying right now, Hieronymous adds. We may push it back another 5 or 10 years past that. We'll see. Believe me, I'm in no rush. I know getting pregnant at school is not allowed, but beyond that, I think I'm still too immature to raise a child when I still feel like one myself. I hesitate as I smile shyly at him. I think you would make a good dad, though. He raises his eyebrows and looks downright shocked. With my temper? Really? I can't help but laugh again. It's been getting better. I can see you're working on it. I shrug. Despite what others may think, you are patient and you are kind and you're always looking out for everyone's best interests. True, you usually scare people into learning what's best for them, but you are looking out for them and giving them the tools they need in order to grow and discover things for themselves. That's what makes a great dad. He shakes his head, but he is smiling now. Things tend to work a bit differently in magical families, Tori, especially mine. If we lived in the other world, the children would be raised separately. It's always possible that you could raise them here yourself while I worked in the other world, but that's only if I chose to, and I'm not sure that's what I'd want. It's not what I would want, I agree as I shake my head. Maybe it's just because of my upbringing, but I would want to raise them here, with you. I know that there'll be times when you might have to travel for business and work, but I want to spend as many nights with you as I can. Hieronymous nods, a bit more solemnly now. There would be many nights away, at least in the beginning. You might be able to accompany me on some trips, but not all. And if we're both traveling, who's looking after the children? I ask. We could always get a nanny on retainer or something, but I wouldn't want that. When we're ready to start a family, it'll be when we both feel that we have enough time to start one. Not before then. Having a family isn't a side job that you do in addition to your career. It becomes a full-time career of its own. Hieronymous smiles as he shakes his head. Sometimes I forget how remarkably mature you can be, he teases. He leans in to kiss me, and I smile as I wrap my arms around his neck and kiss him. He deepens the kiss, and I let his hands travel down the length of my body before I suddenly remember that his father had leafed through my memories. I tried to block most of it out, but had his father actually watched us? What is it? Hieronymous asks suddenly as he pulls away. What's wrong? Nothing, I reply with a quick shake of my head. I know I need to tell him, but I can't summon the words. Telling him will only bring back angry grabby pants, and I needed my husband right now, more than ever. As much as I want to, I think we should both get some sleep, I say, and Hieronymous nods in agreement as he wraps his arms around me, pulling me into his chest. Hieronymous seems to fall asleep instantly, but suddenly I feel wide awake as I think about just how many times my memory had been violated. First, Damien had messed with my memory, and I still didn't have complete confidence that I had escaped completely unscathed from that incident. Damien was not a master of memory magic, and who would know if 1 or 2 or a dozen memories happened to go missing? Potsdam had also done a little memory messing of her own, but at least I had more faith in her abilities. Even still, Potsdam did steal and read my diary, and then had encouraged me to pass it on to Hieronymous to read without my knowing consent. And then, just when I thought that the worst was behind me, his father had intruded into my thoughts to get a rough glimpse of what his son's life had been like, all because he couldn't seem to be civil enough to actually keep up a correspondence. As I start to eventually fall asleep, I can't help but wonder if my life will ever just be mine, or if my experiences will constantly be subject to the scrutiny of other people. Hieronymous also knew what that was like, of course, but as I closed my eyes and drifted off to sleep, I couldn't help but hope that a day would come when we could just be together.